As you begin to carve, you don't really know what the aesthetics under the top are going to be. So when you see guitars that have really translucent finishes that are carved, you know it was a pretty good aesthetic piece of wood. When you see a guitar that's got a dark finish, that means that it was a lesser aesthetic quality piece of wood, even though it may have come from the same tree as a really highly graded aesthetic piece of wood. So it all has to do not just with the tonal quality, but the aesthetic quality of wood. So back to the book match wedges. Really expensive process, takes a lot of time to do it, and as you're shaving wood away, there's no guarantee that one piece of wood from a tree is going to sound the same as another piece of wood from the same tree. So how thickly or how thinly you carve one of these is entirely based on the experience of the guy carving and how the wood's responding as he's removing material from it. You can't stick carved top or back in a computer numerically controlled machine and carve it exactly the same way as your best guitar and expect another guitar to sound the same because the materials are organic. So this is still an art form. Very few instrument makers build this way anymore because it's really expensive and the outcome is really questionable. And it's why, you know, it's not uncommon to spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a really fine Archtop guitar. So not everybody, especially not every jazz guitarist, can afford to dump $25,000 on a guitar. So this method of building guitars is kind of rare in and of itself. And if you shortcut any of these methods, then the instrument that you're getting has a lesser end result, lesser quality. Just an example, you know, when Chinese started building jazz guitars, they read Bob Benedetto's book, copied the specs exactly, did exactly what Bob was doing, but they were cutting down brand new trees, pulling them out of the forest, sticking them in a kiln to speed up the drying process, and then carving instruments as Bob recommended carving them, but with materials that were still kind of moving. So the outcome of the instrument is different, and while a really finely cured instrument will improve over age, an instrument that hasn't been cured may not get better, or it may shift and get worse. The top can fall in a little bit. So all the price that you're paying for an instrument has a lot to do with where the materials came from and how they were cured over the years, and of course the aesthetic value of the materials. So not many jazz guitarists are playing these instruments. Fortunately, if you have an electronic pickup, you're not hearing that quality of acoustic sound anyway, and so you don't really need a carved instrument for 99.9% of the gigs that you're playing. So most jazz guitars today are built using a process called lamination. And lamination, we're often taking the same material, but instead of quarter sawn wedges, this material is being peeled in sheets from the circumference of the tree. So you get a sheet that's about 50 thousandths thick. It's a little thicker. And you've taken multiple veneers. In our case, we've taken 3 veneers, but like Gibson uses 7 veneers, I think, on their ES-175s now. Ibanez is using 11 veneers. Thinner woods, more sheets. We just happen to use thicker sheets, and so we use fewer of them. So we take these veneers, we put glue in between each veneer, we put them in a press that imitates the architecture of a carved guitar, and as it dries, it retains that shape, and we build an instrument out of it. And the result is sound can't travel through this veneered top and back the way it can travel through a carved top and back, but it's a much stronger way to build an instrument. We've got multiple pieces of wood, sometimes different kinds of wood, often cross-grained, and so they're less susceptible to shrinking and swelling, heat and humidity. They're less susceptible to being set in motion through feedback, and often, if you're playing through an amplifier, you're really not hearing the instrument. At least the audience isn't hearing the acoustic value of the instrument anyway. So this is a much, much more affordable way to build. There's much more consistency in the end product because the veneer is always the same thickness and the press is always the same pressure. So much more consistency and a much safer, more robust instrument. In the end, you're always making a concession to acoustic value when you move from a carved guitar to a laminated guitar. You're always making a concession to amplifiability when you move from a laminated guitar to a carved guitar. So as a result, we make both. And the intent for our company is you shouldn't have to compromise on all the aspects that make a great instrument just because it's laminated. All you're giving up is acoustic volume in exchange for amplifiability. So, and I'll bring these around in a second, but this is a carved guitar. This is a laminated guitar. They're the same body size, 16-inch at the lower grout. They both have built-in pickups. They both have ebony tailpieces, 25-inch string scale, 1 3/4-inch nut, the same nitrocellulose lacquer finish, the same kind of tuners. Everything about these guitars makes them feel the same, but perform acoustically differently. When you amplify them, they should all sound pretty close to the same. Let me just point out that a carved guitar, you'll always be able to recognize a carved guitar because of the two-piece back. It's very rare that you see a guitar that's carved with a one-piece back because of the expense of going an entire tree to get one wide enough piece. So always a dead giveaway of a carved guitar, a laminated guitar, and this is a pretty dark finish, so it'll be a little hard to see, although it is a little translucent, is a one-piece back. It's one sheet of wood. So Barry, can I borrow you for a minute? So I'll let you start with this. So this is a carved instrument, and they can get a lot bigger. Anytime you build a pickup into it, you're restricting the ability of the top to vibrate. So you're giving up some acoustic volume in favor of electric performance. So just a little bit on a carved instrument. So it's important how thick you carve both the top and the back of an instrument, because the back's got to be able to vibrate too. If you just now keep playing it, but move it away from your body a little bit. Hear the difference in projection and volume, and then pull it back in the way you normally play it. So you hear the drop in volume and sustain and projection. That's what happens if you carve a back and leave it too thick, for example. So that's a carved instrument. This is exactly the same size instrument, but it's using a laminated spruce top and a laminated maple back. Pretty loud still for a laminated guitar. When you amplify them, plug them in. The intent is to introduce back all the qualities you get from a carved guitar into a laminated guitar. basic architecture of a jazz guitar, the arch top, a floating bridge, a violin-style tailpiece, ebony fingerboard, the 25-inch scale, all the things that are the same on every one of these guitars. Regardless of the material you make it out of, when you amplify it, you should be able to reintroduce the same quality of sound. So this is a much smaller guitar. This is 14.5 inches versus 16 inches. This is 2¼ inches deep versus 2.5 inches deep. On this one, we used the bamboo veneer for the topmost veneer.
Plug it in?
Yeah, plug this in. First, it's here acoustically. So by having a smaller body, you're going to have a smaller sound. And so if you can plug it in, it should reproduce the same quality of sound as the more expensive, larger body instrument. And ideally, they're just as balanced from the lowest note to the highest note. It's kind of the goal of a fine instrument is the same decay and timbre, regardless of where you're playing. So this is a 17-inch guitar with 3 inches deep. It's a much more traditional style, like an original L5. Let me try it again.
Oh.
Play it acoustically for just a second. So it should be louder. The bigger it is, it should be louder, more bass response, more projection.
But they all do feel the same, man. I mean, it feels just like my guitar.
Ideally, that's all part of the tooling and the quality of the construction is they should all feel and perform the same level of responsiveness, regardless of which instrument you pick up. Replicate that kind of openness and decay when you start building solid body or chambered solid body instruments. So this is an example of like a 347 model, and the first thing you notice, other than the double cutaway, is the bridge and the tailpiece are installed right into the top of the guitar. So this is a true electric guitar versus a hollow body archtop guitar that's amplified. Play it acoustically first. It's still a 25-inch scale. It's still, ebony fingerboard, still the same, quality like your cellular lacquer. It's an electric guitar.
Feels great though. Strings feel lighter than the other ones.
Well, they are, because you can put lighter strings. That's another good point. Whenever you have a guitar with a floating bridge and tailpiece configuration, unless it's a tunematic style bridge, you have to have a minimum set of 12s on it, because unless you have a wound G string, the intonation will always be off on this style of bridge. Put an 11 on there, a set of 11s with a plain G, you'll almost always have intonation problems on this style of instrument. On this style of guitar, because it's got an adjustable tunematic bridge, you can put any set of strings you want on there, because you can individually account for that third string.
Not tuned at the factory.
Actually, it was tuned at the factory. There's a problem with those really light strings.
I love this guitar, Howard. I really do.
in general on those?
Typically, if it's a carved guitar, we string it with 14s, like 14 to 52. If it's a laminated archtop guitar like these two, we string it with 12s, 12 to 52.
Flat weld?
Well, round wounds, but it's just a matter of taste. You know, it used to be when I was growing up, everybody played flat wound strings on their archtop guitars. That changed in maybe the early 90s, and round wound started becoming a lot more popular. And so today, I'd guess that 70% of players that play these instruments string them with round wounds.
Y'all both do?
Yeah, I do. You use flat wounds, right?
On the Archtop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use round wounds on archtop. And the difference is round wounds project a little bit more. It's a sort of different level of tension. So there's a lot more bite in a round wound string. Of course, you also, you hear some string noise when you're playing it. But usually that's kind of a fair trade-off. Because most players today, even if it's a small percentage, use round wound strings, we just string everything with round wounds. We figure when people get their guitars, they're going to set them up with their favorite string anyway. So, but everything you pick up here is going to have a round wound string.
Do you have trouble finding carvers for your guitars, or?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of training. So in our shop, we have about 8 luthiers. It's a term for guitar builder. It's a derivative of a lute maker. So we have 8 guys that work for us in the shop that are actually physically making instruments. Only one of them carves tops and backs. All the other guys, we train them. We give them a top and back, and an hour a day when they're not building necks and tail pieces and every other aspect of building, laminating tops and backs and doing binding. About an hour a day, on average, we're having them carve tops and backs by hand. We're not using those tops and backs for our guitars. We're getting them to practice the feel of what it's like to take them. It's just a metal blade that you scrape back and forth and sharpen, and a couple little palm and finger points. So the idea is to train the next generation so that they don't think the tops and backs come from computer numerically controlled machines. They have a feel for how to make them. But if you buy one of these instruments, carved top and back, there's one guy who does that, and he apprenticed under Bob Benedetto for the last 8 years. So for 45 years, it was Bob doing that, and now Damon Mylan, who's our master luthier, does all the carved tops and backs. Now you don't have to take a thick piece of wood and hand carve it into a thin plate. You can do a lot of time saving by using router duplicating machines, or even a computer numerically controlled router. You can take that dimension down to something pretty close to what you want the final dimension to be. But the end result, if it's not carved, then you risk having a guitar that's dead. If you carve it too thin, it's going to lose the mid-range projection, and if you leave it too thick, it's going to sound muted, and you're going to lose the bass response. So in order to really make a great one, it's got to be done by hand. At least the last graduation process. Any more questions? It's all yours.
Well, let's see. Just want to say welcome to Clemson, everybody. Glad you're here, and thank Howard for the presentation. We're like probably 15 minutes behind schedule, which is fine. Maybe let's take a 15-minute break before the Gypsy Jazz guitars, but if it's okay, maybe the guys get to play some.
Yeah, so
we can plug in some.
You guys are welcome to play these. I'm going to leave them out all day long. A lot of you got here a little late, so I'll point out again. This 17-inch guitar, this red guitar, and this we call it, it's a Bambino Deluxe, we call it the Bambuno. It's got bamboo top. These 3 guitars are new guitars that are currently for sale. So you are welcome to play them. Don't drop them or put any dings in them. Be really careful with them because I still have to be able to sell them. This is my personal guitar. You can drop it and hang it up all you want because I do. And this guitar is a prototype, and we let people play it all the time, so you're welcome to handle this as you would any other guitar. Play them, feel free to play them. Just please be really careful not to put any dings or scratches in those three guitars.
Yeah. I'll plug a few more amps up too, and
Great.
help yourself to orange juice and coffee over here. If you haven't done it yet, we have a little sign-in sheet. If you could put your email and name on there, that'd be great. And just help yourself to the guitars, and we'll start with Jerry, maybe 15 minutes or so. Is that good for you guys? All right.
While they're taking a break, can I put a picture of the Barry and...
Yeah, sure.
What's that? Good. Good. Good to see you again. I'm good.
How's it go, Sam?
I remember you. Yes. You guys heard me on recording.
Yeah.
Can't touch it.
They're about 5 years. Really good. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. International is one, and one in North Georgia. There's one in Michigan, it's really good school. Another one I think in Michigan. So there are a bunch of great schools. They last anywhere from 6 weeks to 26 weeks. And you got to believe there, you know,
Yeah, well,
we can break up a car, not Archtop, but at least it teaches you finishing, kind of binding, makes it, everything you need to go flat top.
He called me right before this.
Bro.
He was having some serious. I'm hoping you know about it.
Good to see you.
Part of it.
Well, you gave me advice, so I did.